Spirit Switchboard, airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3, New Orleans.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Today on the show, we have paranormal investigator, public speaker, educator, and author of A Life with Ghosts, Steve Gonsalves. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. We had a lot of back and forth emails getting a date set for this interview. And I was talking to my sister about you coming on the show, and my sister says he spends every day with me. He's part of our routine every day. My nephew turned 16 yesterday, and he said the same thing. He was so excited that somebody that they spend time with, right, every day was going to be on, and they were so excited. And you must see that from a lot of people, that they have spent their days with you over the last how many years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I meet people, I hear those stories, and it's really cool. A lot of people say, and now, of course, they're in their 20s or 30s, but they'll say,
Right.
I've been watching you for as long as I remember. And they were little kids, and now they're adults doing things, and it's really cool. It really
Humbling,
is.
I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. You have a lot of people saying, it's because of you. We're even married. They met, because of our show. It would be their date nights, all these different things. Families come together and watch every week, and that's really cool. It's really nice, and it is, like you said, humbling. You just go, me? What are you talking about?
Right, because we have, even though our jobs are very public, we have a whole separate life outside of this. And so it's easy to not forget, because we're always grateful, but it's easy to be in our own lane and doing our own thing, and not realizing how important what we are offering to people actually is.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it surprises me too, meeting people in not in a bad way, in a very interesting way, how many people think that, it's just television. So what do you really do? Well, no, that's what I do. No,
I
really?
know.
What do you do? Like what do you do? Well, no, I really do that. You do it. It's not just a TV show. Like, no, that's what we do. It's what we've always done. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But it's cool.
I had somebody comment to me, "Oh, that's really nice that you feel what you do is work." Like,
Yeah.
okay. I wasn't going to, that's exactly what I did. Smiled and nodded. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, very lucky we get to consider it work.
Exactly. There's so many people saying hello, so I'm just going to take a second to say hello to some of the people. Laura Lee Potvin, she's also a host here on the United Public Radio Network. She's got 2 shows, so she's saying hello to both of us. Hello, Tom and Susan. Hi, Julie.
2 shows, no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. The Angel Rock and The Thing at the Foot of the Bed with her co-host David Hansel.
David Hansel, that's a cool name,
isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Erica.
You should write a book.
Oh, he's got enough stories too, I'm sure. Hi, Lindsay. I was thinking we also need to do a shout out to Michael, because I think do you know that game, the parlor game, The 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we need to do this 6 Degrees of Kane Hodder, because this is how this all came about, actually, is like the 6 degrees of Kane Hodder, how this connection actually happened. And it's Aloisi. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It is, yeah.
Aloisi,
yeah. Co-writer on Mike, yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's the one that got that connection started in order to have you on the show today. So I just want to make sure that I say thank you to Michael too for being a part of this, part of the journey for you and part of the journey for me.
Absolutely. Mike is a great dude. He's a really nice guy. His whole family's really awesome. And I was actually a bit of a fan of his work. I had read Kane's book and some of his other work, and I approached him for this book, A Life with Ghosts. I was like, hey man, kind of sheepishly, but he agreed to. And then we found out that we live neighboring cities, towns,
Really?
one town over. Yeah, we didn't even know that. So like, okay, this makes sense. Yeah, really
That's
cool.
fascinating. And now it's part of the 6 degrees of Kane Hodder story. It's the new,
right?
It's the new parlor game.
Yep, you should turn that into a game. 6 degrees of Kane. For those of you who don't know, he's Jason in the Friday the 13th movies. Yeah.
And part of the Hollywood Ghost Hunters, and actually that was how my nephew got so excited about all of this, right? I had met Kane, I think it was almost 10 years ago, and my nephew is in the autism spectrum, and he loves everything horror movie. He loves all of it, has since he was little. And so I showed him because I wanted to be the coolest aunt ever. Look at this picture of Auntie Carrie Lynn with Kane Hodder. So I was like the coolest person. So the next thank you for being on the show, because now it makes me like the coolest aunt for day 2 with my nephew, right?
Look at that. See? We're here to provide a service for families across the country, for sure.
Thanks for joining us, Heather. She's saying, "Oh my God, I used to watch Ghost Hunters with my mom before she passed. She would have loved to see this interview."
No. So we can't talk to these people. We can only. How do we know how long ago did your mom pass? We won't know. She can't answer back. We can't talk.
She
to her,
can answer if you take it. Yeah. So to the right of us is all of the chats will come up, and we can highlight them, and we can just watch for her as it's coming up. So there's a whole list scrolling on the side there.
Wow. Okay. How sad. Oh.
But it's a good memory at the same time too, right? Like you said, people watch those shows as family time and getting together, and they have their own traditions attached to that.
Absolutely.
Like my sister.
It's really sweet. It's really awesome. Yep. Love hearing those stories.
Thanks for joining us, Joe. Heather's just responding to you now. She's saying 2 years.
Well, okay. Geez, that's
still
not very long at all with that kind of, man. I don't know how someone deals with that kind of thing, especially if she, not that you would know by looking at that photo, but she doesn't appear to be like her mom would be coming, very sad. Gosh.
You guys had, so in the States, I'm in Canada, just outside of Toronto. So our Thanksgiving was in October, but you guys had Thanksgiving yesterday. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I sure did. Spent it with family, had some delicious food. And then I came home and hung out with my cat. She's right next to me. If you see me look down every so often, it's just because she'll just be staring at me and her eyes draw me in.
Fleur.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So she's and then spent the night with her. It was awesome. It was really,
do you guys
really
have
cool.
Traditions? Do you do are there traditions that you do every year?
Me and Fleur, we watch movies
for Thanksgiving. That's awesome. I do with my dogs. The dogs and I have nightly routines, actually.
Yeah, see, we have a lot of routines, Fleur. I'm pretty much a vending machine for her. That's what it comes
That's
down
so
to. No, we have a great relationship. But family traditions, I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I try to be with family if I can. Every once in a while, I'll be stuck in a situation because I don't fly, where maybe I can't get back to the East Coast in time. But that's
yeah,
only happened like twice. Yeah,
right.
family. What about you? What's it like in Canada for Thanksgiving? The same sort of thing? You get
Yep,
together with family and loved ones?
yep. If that's
Hmm.
if that's where if everybody's getting on well, right, then people spend time with family and where you can, for sure. I think everybody's traditions are different, right? Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
traditions are different. For me, I kind of put emphasis on the American Thanksgiving because to me that's the marker to start getting my Christmas holiday stuff
Yeah.
out. So I use the American one as the marker. For us, Thanksgiving happens before Halloween. So, there's a little different energy attached to it for sure. Because
What?
it was the 14th of October.
Oh, wow. So Thanksgiving happens before Halloween there.
Uh-huh.
How interesting. I didn't know that. I'm so uncultured. Steve, pull it together.
That's okay. It's
Wow.
all good.
That's interesting. Are there any different food offerings in Canada than, or is it the turkey and all that? That
Oh
same
yeah,
stuff.
same old. And then it depends. I have a foodie kid who's, my youngest kid is 18 and trying to move into culinary arts. So he's wanting to try different things all the time. So, he's making a different menu other than turkey for Christmas. He's got some surprises planned for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Um, a life with ghosts. Let's get into it. What I appreciated reading that book, what I appreciated was it wasn't just all about ghost stories. Like you really have an emotional connection, a love of history. There was a very lovely balance between personal and then the work side of it. I don't know if that sounds right, professional and personal, but there was a really lovely balance to the stories that you chose to share.
Thank you. Yeah. There was definitely a criteria. They weren't just, oh, this will go in the book, this and that. There was a lot of thought that went into which ones would go in, and they very much had to mean something emotionally. They had to mean something when it comes to the paranormal. They're not all just the most haunted places. Uh,
Yeah.
a place that had a really strong emotional sort of connection for me could, make it to the list more so than some place that is really haunted. It has
Right.
to really, like you said, have all of that balance, and everything in here did. They all mean a lot to me, whether it's uh, the most haunted, most crazy place I've been with stuff happening all the time, or whether I learned something about life. Don't try that because it didn't work out so good for him.
Yeah,
That sort
exactly.
of thing, and you can learn from other people's mistakes,
Mhm.
but also through other people's triumphs. You know,
Yeah.
you can definitely learn a lot. So I found that if it was something that I have learned and could and do apply to my own life, that made it into the book. And of course, something really scary. But like you said, a lot of other facets. I also wanted to
Yeah.
pay, respects to the fact that it's very likely that they were all people too.
Yeah.
Not every haunting is of a person. We know that there are other energies out there, but the ones that are of a person of someone who was living as a human, we need to remember they've been through some crazy stuff, and let's respect them and not just high five when we find their ghost.
Yeah. Because there is a story that needs to be heard, right? There's a story that
Hmm.
needs to be heard and respected in that. Erica is just saying, I agree. Steve and Tango are the best together.
Oh yeah, Tango. Yeah, Tango's my best friend. Very easy uh, to work with and hang out with. we all have a good time together, whether I'm investigating with Jay or even Sherry at times we've investigated together. We always have a blast. But Tango and I, for sure, we just have you know, Jay and I, when we investigate together, quite honestly, we have a hard time getting anything done. So it doesn't happen too often. We're too busy like playing jokes on each other and just laughing. But we do get things done.
Yeah.
But Tango and I, for whatever reason, is easier for us to find that balance of let's be serious, let's investigate. Jay and I just joke around the whole time.
I'm known as the snack lady on investigations.
Oh.
I'm the, what are we bringing for snacks? I'm all about the snacks. So,
Of course.
because you're there for a long time. You guys are at a location much longer than I would be at a location. You're there like days at a time. And I think that's maybe something people don't always recognize or know, right? They're seeing these clips that are put together for an hour on TV or 45 minutes, however long the show is, and not maybe realizing the length of time that you spend in each location.
Absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, off of television, the average case for us, and I think most investigators and teams, is about 4 months to 2 years. It's not like you see in the TV world where it's okay, now we're in, it's on to the next one. We do the, I mean, that is how it is because we're really,
Yeah.
but if you're not doing it on television, it's a very long process. But even in the TV world, it does look like we may be there for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
But we've always been there for a week, weeks, months sometimes. I remember the first time we investigated the Stanley Hotel, we were there for almost a month.
Wow.
It doesn't look that way on television
Yeah.
because, in an episode, there's maybe 20 something minutes of investigating. If they had to take 5 minutes of those and say, this is night one, this is night two, and this happened on night three, maybe that makes sense with night two.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. So it plays a little different when you watch it. But you're right, we're there for a long time. And on our Ghost Nation show, there's been times, and even on our later episodes of Ghost Hunters, the last few seasons, there have been times when we've requested more time. We've been there for 2 weeks or so and need another week or two, and luckily they've always given it to us. But that's happened as well.
Do you feel that the spirits that are in those locations kind of warm up to you at that point? So there's an interaction or a comfort level, like no different if we think about them as humans. You are a stranger coming into their space, so they're checking you out before they open up.
I think I don't think there's any one necessarily one thing that works. I think it is that for sure. I think it could be that
Depending on the location.
Right, depending on the location, depending on what type of haunting, and if it's a residual type of haunting, it's likely not aware of time and space, so it may not be aware that we're even in the room. But if it is an intelligent, let me try that again. But if it is an intelligent type of haunting, for sure, absolutely. I do think one of the things is that it does need to, figure you out a little bit. It may even quite know where you are. We don't know what it looks like to them, if it even looks like anything, or how would they even, or maybe it looks just like it does here. I am in my room here. Maybe it looks just like this to them. I don't know. So it could be some of that. That's also why rapport building is a technique that we use extensively all the time. One of the first things we do, we start, it sounds, and the people who don't love the shows, they'll say all the time, well, all you do is walk around and talk to thin air. It's like, yeah, actually, we're
and introduce yourself.
We're trying. Oh, of course, yeah. You got to get them comfortable with. So it is that for sure. I also am not sure that anybody knows what their interpretation of time and space is, right? So we're at a place for a week and we're like, God, it's been a week. That may be nothing to them. It could be just like, hey, give me a minute. We don't really know. Who knows? It could be the opposite. But
and I'm not sure that we'll know all the answers. Like I think it's just one big rabbit hole that we get to stay curious about and enjoy the wonderment of it as we're exploring it.
I agree. The mystery is part of the fun. The mystery of it, the intrigue, and really, we took the team, us and Jay and Teo and Sherry and really starting to dig and pull apart the background in every sort of facet, and we found in doing that, we find ourselves always in the most interesting historical mysteries that you just are trying to figure out and unravel.
Yeah.
And well, we're hearing this noise here, but it couldn't be this person because they died, at a hospital 2 miles away. And you get to really figure things out and put the puzzle together. And it's so much more fascinating and fun than just going in and saying, well, this must be that little kid that supposedly died here. And maybe it is, but who knows, but
Yeah.
really putting together that mystery, like you said, the
Yeah.
mystery of it, the mysterious,
And it's
is one
layered.
of the best parts.
It's always going to be layered, right? The stories.
That's
Erica is just asking, what locations have you investigated in Canada and which was your favorite?
Canada, that's a good, the only place that we've actually investigated in Canada was in Cornwall. We did a private residence, and we did, you'll have to forgive me, but it's in Cornwall, Canada. It's a fort. It was beautiful and huge.
Did you do Fort Henry in Kingston, or was it?
We've done Fort Henry for sure.
Yeah.
But we definitely did one that was in Cornwall. So if that's the same one, then it could be. But whatever that fort is there in Cornwall, we did.
Yeah, bad Canadian. I don't know. But if somebody who is part of the conversation with us, fill us in if you know. You can.
Thank you. I wish. I really do wish that they could all stay fresh in my brain, but
when there's so many. Erica's saying, I remember the Fort Henry episode.
Yeah, the Fort Henry was, that was the first time we all had to go buy like ice boots. And
welcome to Canada.
They're like, right? Welcome, welcome to Canada.
It's now like, Thanksgiving. Here's your turkey leg and your ice boots.
It was beautiful and made it quite an experience, but yeah, that was something else.
This is actually my sister. This is my sister Christy. So she's saying that's what I like, the history part, not so much the creepy. I have dragged my sister to investigations because I love her. And it makes me laugh when she gets scared. So I drag her along anyway. If my sister has the opportunity to tell you, she will tell you that I used to read her bedtime stories that consisted of Stephen King because I'm 7 years older than her. So it was horror movies and scary things right from the start from my sister. Your sister is older than you, correct?
Talking to me?
Yep. Is she younger?
Yeah, she's younger than me. I think maybe 5 years younger than I am, 5 or 6 years younger.
Did you read to her? You've got the best picture of you and your dad and your sister in the book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
He's got that rockin' stash with the wood paneling. It is all awesome.
I told him, I was like, Dad, that was a big thing back in the 80s, huh? That like Colombian drug lord look? Like what's going on there? He had that big full mustache.
It was full.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome.
So my sister's a little bit younger. Yeah, a little bit.
Susan's just filling us in. Fort Augustus.
Fort Augustus. Okay, so that would be what we did there. Fort Augustus, and I do remember a private residence. Yeah, it was in part like a condo complex.
But that would be so complicated, a condo complex, because what was there prior before the complex was built and the land, and there's so much more to it to dig into, right? That whole puzzle and mystery.
Yeah, yep, it can be quite challenging, but you do the best you can. If they really are having a hard time and need some help, we'll get there. Apartments can be tricky, and also tracing it back to a landlord, that sort of thing, because you can't just bring a camera crew to somebody's apartment, the landlord would be like, hey, like, I didn't say you could
Right.
come in my building, and but it can be tricky, but we figured that place out. I don't remember if that aired or not. We do have a lot of cases that, end up not airing for whatever reason. But
My sister's just saying the Mackinac Island investigation was a great episode. And Susan is just saying, she's just filling us in, that the wind is also known as the Windmill Fort.
The Windmill Fort. Okay.
In Cornwall. I didn't know that
All right.
either.
Yeah, I sadly don't remember. And even now, the show's been going for 20 years now. So you look back and you go, okay, geez, could I even remember? That was 10, 12 years ago or so.
Right.
I wish, I really do wish, but sometimes it gets, sometimes they do stay in there, but they're usually the places that people are always refreshing your memory about. Like, remember when you were here and you did this or this happened? You go, oh yeah, yep, I do.
Thank goodness people remember other people. My sister remembers everything. So I rely on her to be that person to go, hey, remember that this happened, because I don't retain it all. It's just too much, too many places, too many people.
Yeah, of course. Everybody. There's some law out there, I forget what it is, where they say that an average adult person can really only maintain like 250 names and faces and relationships before it gets fuzzy. There's like a certain number to it that the human brain can sort of hold in there, and then it just gets a little wonky. Whether it's real or not, who knows?
I don't know, but I'm over 50 now, so I think that's a magic number too. I think, there's something that happened at 50. It's gotten a little foggy.
Could be.
Laura Lee is just asking, what location, Steve, would you say was the most active with a lot of activity? That would be a hard question too.
It is a hard question. And, a lot of activity could mean frequency, or it could mean, not necessarily, but I would say Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know if it's the most active, but I'd say if I've been there 15, 16 times, I would say that at least 12 times there have been a lot of stuff happening that I can't explain, that people I'm with can't explain, things that are just like, whoa, that is, that place for me, I'd say, and that's frequency, meaning that my frequency, how many times I've been there, sort of my batting average, if you will.
Right.
But that doesn't mean frequency in terms of if I'm there, is it happening all day and night, that sort of thing. So that type of frequency might be, I'd say there too, probably Waverly Hills as well.
Is
frequency
that one that
of activity both ways
draws you back? Is that one that draws you back, that you
Waverly
think
Hills,
about going back or going back to?
Oh yeah, I'll go there as much as I can all the time. Oh yeah, even if there weren't ghosts there, I'd go there.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. Just the history that's been there. I'm someone who finds beauty in decay for sure, and I just want to soak in all those stories.
Ditto.
Right. So for me,
there's always something new that happens, whether it's a personal experience or just an emotion that gets triggered when you're in those spaces. Like there's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I wanted to thank you for, I know, was I love the fact that you are so transparent about what your anxieties and fears are, as a person who has some anxiety and fears that limit me sometimes. I appreciated that. And I appreciated when you were sharing that story in the book about the lighthouse and going, I wish I could tell you that it changed things for me, but it didn't. I was like, thank you. Thank you so much, because Yeah, I have quite a number of stories. It's stairs that I can see through, like where there's no risers, those graded steps. I don't know.
Terrifying. Yeah,
Yeah.
terrifying.
Oh,
St. Augustine Lighthouse makes it a little easier than some because there are platforms where you can't see all the
oh,
way down, but the stairs themselves. So you're right, because I think it's Pensacola is one that it's just meshing, the mesh stairs, and you can see all straight through, and that is panic attack. Yeah, that's
my,
terrifying.
my, my. I lived on the east coast of Canada for a little while, and we have the Bay of Fundy. And I was at the Bay of Fundy, and you could take steps down, and when the tide goes out, you can walk along the ocean floor, which is amazing. So take the kids, and it's this amazing. It's just amazing. Everything about it is amazing until you have to take those steps back up, and it's these wooden creaky steps that you can see all the way through. And I'm with my daughter, who is an infant, strapped on me, and my 5 and 4-year-old pushing my butt, going, "Just breathe, mama, just breathe. You're okay." Like, now I'm 52 and I'm still needing my children to push me and going, "Just breathe, mama, you're okay."
Sure, yeah. I would imagine
Still,
kids can be a great inspiration.
you still stick yourself in those positions to do it, but it's a lot. It's a lot when you're in those moments, for sure. A
It
lot.
is. And people think, because you did it, it's like, oh, great, now you're cured. It's like, oh, no. No, no, no.
You're
I
a
wish it
fan
was that easy.
of horror movies and that genre as well, correct? Is that
Oh, yeah, of course. Yep.
okay? Did you watch them? I don't even think that they considered it a horror movie. I think they called it, I don't know, a survival thriller. Fall.
I have not seen that. No. Is it
Mm.
good?
Mm. Yeah, but it's one of those ones that can trigger you at the same time. Like, I had sweaty palms, gross sweaty palms the entire time because of the height thing. But it's a brilliant movie.
Okay. I'll
Dean
check that out.
Morgan,
I'll
if
watch
you had
anything.
it. Yeah, it's but it puts you at that edge for sure. But it's called Fall. And,
Fall.
Fall.
I'm
Jeffrey
gonna
Dean
find a
Morgan.
pen. Oh, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes, it's. I mean, his role is small as the dad in it, not the main protagonist in it, but it's
Fall.
yeah. I think they call it a survival thriller, but it was triggering in a good way. Like, I still didn't stop watching, for sure. But it's relatable, and I appreciate that you still, have that sense of wonder and put yourself in that position, and you share so transparently.
Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate it. But it's part of it, and it is part of what I do for not for the show, but just part of. We are always in places where you gotta sometimes climb up crazy rickety ladders and look down, and I really am terrified, So I really am shaking, and Jay like, "Come on, you can do it," and Tanga like, "I got you, buddy."
Yeah, but that's
And
part of
Sherry and
trusting,
telling me,
right? That's
"Oh
part
yeah,
of
of course."
trusting who you're working with, and that is important. When you are doing these sorts of investigations, that everyone knows how to work with one another, and that trust level is there.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Sandra.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us. Another emotional. I'm going with the emotional stuff first, if that's okay, before we get to anything like super creep.
Sure, whatever you'd like. Yeah.
I got kind of teary when you were talking about Meatloaf. When I was looking at the picture of him at the pump organ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was really a cool guy. Yeah, very nice. Awesome, great storyteller, fun to listen to. Didn't play by anybody's rules.
That also comes back to, I think, like when we're talking about holding space for one another and where we feel trust in putting ourselves in those positions to be vulnerable. Like, all of it is a vulnerable thing. When you're doing a paranormal investigation, it's in the dark, you're in these creepy places, you don't really know what's going to happen. There's all sorts of things involved to it. And Meatloaf felt comfortable. That was a part of something that he was interested in. It was outside of who he was, you know, how the public recognized him. It was an interest for him. And you were able to hold space for him to just be and explore. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, he loved it. He really did. He looked forward to it so much. He would be so giddy every time we'd see him, and his wife or whoever was with him, you know, like, oh God, it's all he's been talking about for, you know, months now. And because of course he's a busy fella, so it's not like he can just spring up out of, you know, he has to really carve that out of his schedule if he wants to come spend a week with us, you know.
Yeah.
But every time we bumped into him, Jay certainly more than I did. He and Jay got quite close. But every time I saw him, he was just the biggest stories, the biggest smiles and hugs and bear hugging, and yeah, great guy. Loved the paranormal. He really did. Loved investigating it. Loved us. He really did. First time I met him, he knew every single place we'd been to. He'd watched every episode multiple times.
Right.
He had told us about viewing parties he'd have at his house, and the people he would name that he would have over at these ghost hunters viewing parties. I'm like, whoa, this, you know, they were talking like A-list crazy people, and we're like, they would come to your house every Wednesday and watch. Oh yeah, this is crazy, you know. Like,
but it's sharing a
bizarre to me.
passion.
Oh yeah, I think he had that passion before us. He almost tried to start a ghost hunting team when he was in college. Never worked out for him for whatever reason. Back then there weren't really many teams around, you know, so, but yeah, it really was a passion for him. He loved it.
We just have Julia's just asking a question now too. Can you see? We've just got that up. Julie is asking, Steve, do you have intuitive psychic gifts as well, or do you just rely on your equipment to receive spirit messages?
I don't have any gifts myself at all. No, nope, none. Not that I know of. I've heard many times that it's, you know, maybe you do and you just don't know because you're expecting some crazy, but it's really more something you have to tune into and really understand what you're experiencing. And then I've talked to other psychics who, you know, tell me like, no, you would know, you know, like there's not much, and a lot of them, I'm almost kind of happy, perhaps maybe I don't have any of those gifts because, yeah, I know some mediums and spirit, you know, spirit mediums and psychics who are, you know, like I just want to sleep, you know, I can't, I just want to like get through my day, and I have all these, you know, they're just coming at me, and they can't turn it off necessarily. But for me, none of those gifts. I do believe though that as just a person, I can tune into energy. You know, it's a real thing. Our primal gaze detection. You know,
that was actually a question that I had wrote down for you. Is have you found that your sensitivity to places has heightened the longer that you've done this work? So it's not necessarily. I mean, you do have a background policing as well too, even if that was short, but there's a gut intuition, gut feeling or knowing, you know, that you end up following, but has that heightened the longer that you've done or the more that you've done investigations?
Yeah, definitely. There is just over time now, you know, with the show, we've been doing the show for 20 years, but even before that I was investigating for maybe almost 10 years, you know, so over time, there are a lot of other sensations that come about when there is a paranormal experience. It's not just, well, that happened. And you can just over time, you can tell there's a difference in the environment. Things change. And you can pick up on that. You do. And I tell you, the production crew doesn't like it very much because we'll be walking around and hear something, or and you'd be like, don't you want to go check that out? No, 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 that's nothing. What do you mean it's nothing? We know what that is. We've done this a long time. That's because the A beam did this and it knocked on this thing. Like we already figured, like so
Yeah.
you over time you are able to really snap into things. But just knowing about energy and how it interacts in the environment, in the physical world here, if spirits are made of energy and they're moving through our environment, then the static layer in our body is going to interact with the Earth's magnetic field, and it's going to tell us that something is moving. That's not a psychic or mediumistic sort of ability. That's just a human ability to know that something else is in the room with me. So I think a lot of investigators have tuned into that over time.
Well, it's like a muscle that's developing, right? It's a muscle that develops. Sandra's just commenting, you don't realize that's what it is, because when you know something, you just know it. You don't always recognize the why you know
it. She's actually right in a lot of ways, yeah. Like I tell a lot of sort of investigators, especially ones who are just getting involved or have been involved for a few years but are having a hard time knowing if what they're experiencing is paranormal or not, and I tell them it's like you would then it's not, you would know, your body just takes over and says this is impossible, this shouldn't be happening, there's no way. You get emotional, the environment changes, like everything is different. It's it would be kind of like saying, I think there was a tornado, I don't know, maybe. Like no, you would know if there was it's just, that might not be the best analogy, but it would be, you usually don't have to play guessing games if it is. Don't get me wrong, you should always try to disprove things like we do, and
discernment is so important.
Of course, yeah. If you're so that is important, but I think a lot of people can tune into things, but for me, no psychic gifts or anything like that.
I agree. Sometimes it's not nice. Sometimes it's super overwhelming, for sure. And I've been this way since I was a little kid. So for me, it's a normal, but it's not always a normal that is comfortable, for sure.
Yeah, it's I tell you what, we'd probably have some better ratings, not that we need better, but like, if I could secretly and psychically, without the world knowing I'm a psychic, guys, come into this room, like bring all the cameras in here and then have all kinds of stuff happen. We'd be on CNN, and it'd be like,
I don't know. Like I like the left brain side to the investigating, even though I can tune in energetically. Like I really love it when equipment is validating something that I may have been picking up. I like the left brain side to it, even though I can tap in, because it's filling in the gaps as well too. I may only pick up one layer of whatever is energetically attached to that place and not tap into like the bigger scope of it. So the equipment is important, and the left brain side of it is important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think it's there are a lot of psychics and mediums that I know that do like to have what they are saying backed up by equipment, and it makes them feel that they can stand a little more sturdy on their own findings,
and more than one
that's really
piece
cool.
of equipment. It's better when you got two pieces going at the same time, right? To validate each other, right? Yeah. Like you need two. We just have Joe asking, when you hear your name said by the paranormal, does it freak you out?
It's happened to me a few times, and it's never freaked me out. I thought it was really cool and kind of interesting, like, oh, this might be able to see me, understand it's me, and even know my name and say my name. And so it hasn't freaked me out at all. But it's happened a few times to my buddy Tango, and it freaks him out. It really bothers him when it's happened. It happened real vividly too, and we all heard it with our ears. It was me, Jay, Sherry, and Tango, and we heard this voice, and we're like, "What?" And Jay was like, "That just said Tango," and we're like, "No, no." Here, you play it back, and sure enough,
Yeah.
it's that, and it's happened a few times, and he doesn't like it. He gets a little
I think
jacked
I
up a little
would.
bit.
I don't necessarily like it, or it freaks me out more when it's in the review, like when you've not heard it with your outside ear, and then you have it coming back at you on review. Then it's like, oh, that's a little creepy. Did anybody sigh? Then you start asking, right? Like you're doing that debunk around it, but when you hear it on review, to me, that's creepy.
Yeah, EVPs are definitely, they can be quite unsettling, especially if they make sense with the surroundings and the environment and what's happening, and you can tell they're interacting with the physical world there. Um, it really is. I like disembodied voices because if you hear it there in the environment, in the moment, or even real-time
Your
analysis,
outside ear,
uh,
yeah.
right, yeah, then you can now what to ask, what to say. Maybe you can pivot your investigation a little bit, like, oh, just heard that gal talking, like maybe it's now this woman we need to be communicating with.
Mhm.
Whereas you go back later and listen, now you're having to go back into the environment, and but review, it's so cool to see, you know all of the things that, because sometimes you'll leave a place and go, "Oh, I don't know, not much going on there." And then you're listening later and you're like, "Geez, boy, was I wrong." Like, holy cow, that place was hopping. Yeah.
So was that the Bucksteep Manor? I had wrote that. Is it Bucksteep Manor? Is that where things happened not at the time, or that happened when you were not really investigating? Have I got that correct?
Yeah, that happened when Tango and I went for a revisit to get some. We were there investigating,
That's such a cool
and
story.
oh yeah, it was amazing. But we were there investigating, and nothing really happened. We were there for a couple days, a week maybe. Nothing really happened, and of course, um, you know, but the whole staff was so like, and we just knew that they weren't able to keep cooks, they weren't able to keep wait staff, they weren't able to keep housekeepers, a lot of different things, and they were really like you could see the struggle in their faces and in their eyes, and the chef was, like, I built this place up, and I can't keep cooks here, and I'm going to lose my livelihood. Uh, Full disclosure, it ended up not staying haunted, and ended up closing the place. But um, they were serious, and so we went there and didn't really have anything happen, and didn't find anything in the evidence. Uh, but we knew that we wanted to get answers for them. And
Yeah.
so even without cameras, because the crew was like, well, we're already going to be on our way to the next spot, because we would sometimes catch up to them. They get there ahead of time, do their thing. We show up as investigators ready to go with our part of the thing. And so in talking to Jay and the team, and of course, Jay has 6 kids, so their time was tied up a bit, and we only had, I think, 2 days or so before we had to head out of town to go to the next case. And Tango and I had said, "Okay, well, we'll go and just set up equipment and or not investigate, but just let it, run." What we call uncontaminated, I guess, nothing, just see what happens, because a lot of times activity isn't happening when you're walking around demanding it. It's when you're minding your own business. It's when there's
Yeah.
a tour going through, not looking for a ghost. It just happens. It's when, the cook is doing his own thing, and behind him, a pan flies and hits the wall. It's not happening when you're trying to. So we said, let's stay out of its hair and see what happens.
Right.
And that's when everything happened. But it wasn't on the show because we just went on our own. And so that's just an experience. And of course, you mentioned it is in the book there, but it's an experience that I wish everybody could see. I wish we um, but it's almost kind of sweet that it was just me and Tango and I. We
Yeah.
had that. Me and Tango. It was just yeah. It was just me and Tango. Sometimes I get my grammar sloppy, but just me and Tango. That was our. We had that, and it was amazing. It really was pretty crazy.
So that was a question that I had written down to ask you, actually, was personal experiences. Personal experiences still, I think some people don't put a lot of weight into them, but maybe they should. Just because you're not capturing it doesn't mean that it's not, because really my thought is, when you're going to do an investigation, you're almost seeking a personal experience. It's going to be a personal experience on some level, so you can't discount it. You can't. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what if you go to a court of law, if you go to anything like that, that's known as oral evidence. And even when it's not written down, it's passed through time. That's oral history. And that can have some degree of accuracy. But the problem does come when the human brain is literally the worst storage of information. That as soon as it goes into your brain, it's already distorted from what you originally saw and experienced, and you add time to that, and it's going to get a little distorted. But could there be a seed of truth in there? For sure. Now that's going to be the public perception of oral history, but you, me, as an investigator, we know what we saw. We had that experience.
Yeah.
We know what it is. But still, to the public, that is just an oral piece of evidence. It's something that you're just orating to somebody.
Yeah.
You have no, but it's always good when, that I'm happy Tanga was there, because now we both no, we saw that. We were both, we heard that happened to us,
Yeah.
and not just one or the other. And that happens. And should we have ran out to the van and broken out all the equipment again and said maybe, but then would it have stopped happening by the time we got back in? Probably. So what is better? Do we stand there and have the experience? And I wish it happened nowadays, because you just pull a cell phone out and just
Right.
just start recording it. But this was in 2005, I think. We had a sidekick. There was no pulling out and just start recording. It didn't happen. But I wish it happened now, because we would definitely have evidence of that.
And I'm always like, thank you so much. That was awesome. For whatever reason, if you're doing this now, I appreciate it. Like, just talking it out loud, right? Thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate this. There's a few questions I just want to catch up with.
We did appreciate it, but I won't lie, we were terrified. Taylor and I, during that experience, like I mentioned a little bit in the book, but not too much, because we always say how the paranormal doesn't scare us, and it doesn't. It startles us, but by and large, we end up getting excited and we want to,
Yes.
really experience it. But we were clutched onto each other, like, just keep going.
But do you find the fear gets replaced quickly with laughter? Like, it's like that moment of, whoa, that was something, and then you can laugh about it after. Like it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It flips, right? So
it turns
there's
into
that
excitement.
Exactly. Always. Okay, so Laura Lee is just asking, Steve, do you and the team do anything energetically for protection? Also, have you encountered anything negative that has gotten physical with one of you? That sort of backs on to Kathy was asking if something has followed you home from an investigation. So I guess, we can put those together for you.
Yeah. Do we do anything with energy or any sort of things to protect ourselves when we investigate? I don't. None of the investigators that I work closely with do either. I know Jay doesn't really, or Tango or Sherry.
Are there personal belief systems? Like, some people have a faith background that they lean on when they're going into different places. Everybody has a different approach that they're going to bring into it, right?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm just speaking personally. I don't. I am a lover of Christ and religion, but I have never really used that as any sort of I feel like if I was afraid of this, maybe I would. But no, nothing. I know Jay, not to speak for him, but he has always said, putting all of his faith into one certain thing makes him a little afraid, because if that gets taken away from him, then he's going to be, very vulnerable, and very much so. So, people who put all of their sort of trust into this one crystal or into a cross or something, what happens if you drop that or lose it or forget it or something? Then you're going to feel like, which may or may not have any bearing on it. But I know for the investigators I'm close with, there's nothing we really do going into it. I sometimes pay respect, hey, I'm sorry for what you went through. Or
Exactly.
if it's something awesome, hey, it was great what you did. This is so cool that you wouldn't leave, your husband of 40 years, or you wouldn't leave your wife, or whatever the case is. You can also pay respect in that regard, because, as you know, not every haunting is because of a tragedy, or because of something awful. You see hauntings of people who are still alive where no tragedy has happened at all.
Big
So
emotions
yeah,
either way, right? It's just big
that's right.
emotions, and in whatever extreme it is
That's
happening.
exactly 100% right. And not, I mean, as much as I'm not speaking from a land of facts. There are no facts here, but it
Yeah.
does seem that most case studies, the ones that we've put together, that I've put together, that a lot of researchers even have put together without realizing, without realizing they've even put together a case study, as seems to point all in that direction. That those strong emotions, those big emotions, like you said,
Mhm.
whether they're great or terrible, it seems to be the catalyst of it. And that's likely why we don't often find hauntings associated where, people are buried, or where a body is, or, not to be grim, but I have, quite honestly, body parts all around me, and I've never had anything happen in my house.
Yeah.
It's just true. Never. I don't think that. Sure, somebody could be attached to their bones in some regard, or the place that they're laid to rest. I'm sure it can happen, and likely has, but I don't see a reason for it. It's the
I've not had
emotions,
that
like you said.
experience exactly, and emotions, and sometimes it's the emotions of the people that are in the space. So if there's a lot of unrest or big emotions, yeah, that aren't being, maybe addressed in a healthier or positive way, can be triggering stuff that's happening within a space. So, there's just so many different layers to that.
Absolutely, and quite honestly, the layered haunting, is probably my favorite. Because you really get to figure out, and it doesn't
It's a
have to be
puzzle.
layered. It's a puzzle. You can have
Mhm.
residual and intelligent. You can have different eras. You can have inhuman with human, if you believe in that sort of thing. You really can have all kinds of different things happening, and it's so fascinating to try to figure out.
Yeah. So Brad is asking a question similar to something that, I had jotted down to talk to you about too. Brad is asking, what do you find to be the best equipment to use?
The best equipment, for me, and just me personally, I find that uh, a video camera. Quite honestly, for me, you want to have that documentation, not just for other people, but for yourself. As an investigator, as somebody, if you don't, you get so angry every time it's happened. It's still awesome that you had the experience, but every time I've had an experience and haven't had some way to record it, I've really been angry with myself. But that's not necessarily the reason. For me, the reason is if I have a video camera, and I'm talking about one with infrared capability, even better, one with full spectrum capability. And full spectrum isn't necessarily full spectrum. There are still spectrums that it doesn't see, but it still gives you quite a few more than our visible spectrum. So what that means is, say I have an infrared camera. now I'm able to see everything in the visual spectrum, right? Which is that Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo,
Right.
violet. So now I can see everything in that spectrum, but also now I can see in the infrared spectrum, which I couldn't before I was using my infrared camera, right? So now I can see all of that. And if I put my full spectrum on, now I can see in other spectrums that I can see, or excuse me, that I couldn't see in the infrared or even in the visible spectrum. And then to top it off, you're also recording audio, so you can get EVPs and disembodied voices and sounds. So that to me is a great device for all of those reasons combined. If you are investigating in the daytime or with the lights on, video camera, I think, still takes it for me. Even if you're not able to use the infrared, there are some cameras though you can still use the infrared. It does work, but as you all know, in this field, you get what's called bloom, where the infrared just blooms out and it turns bright and white, and you can't see things. So there are some cameras that are really good at mitigating that bloom effect, and if you can get one of those, quite expensive, but if you can, that's even better to use because you can use that with the daylight and that sort of thing. And then aside from that, I'd say thermal imaging, EMF as well. God, okay. I can only pick one. I'd say video.
Yeah, no, but that's it's
Starting getting crazy.
But I think the encouraging people to really understand all the ins and outs of how that equipment works as well too, right? So that they understand how to debunk for themselves or to prove. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it is very important. When you're using your EMF gauge, you can't just stand there and think that it lights up and you're getting answers for things. Like I see people hold different gadgets and ask questions and they see it light up and they think it's an answer, that sort of thing. You really need to understand how it works so that you would know that you're likely not getting any answers, that sort of thing. And if you know how they work deeply, you'll help yourself, really mitigate a lot of the false positives, I guess you'll call them, or misinterpretation. For instance, with the EMF, right? The Earth's magnetic EMF is, of course, Earth's magnetic field, and we have these detectors. We all use EMF detectors. But I'll ask 100 investigators if I'm doing a lecture of sorts or whatever. Hey, what does your EMF gauge read? And I'll get 10, 15 different answers, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 different answers. And quite honestly, most of the time they're all wrong, and I think it's important that people really need to know. And I don't understand why in our field there is that disconnect. If I ask, hey, what does your EMF reader do? We should all know. If you ask a carpenter what his drill does, you're not going to get a bunch of different or question marks. They're going to know what they're. I guess that might be a silly analogy, but you need to know that your EMF gauge reads radiation and not anything in the Earth's magnetic field. And because you need to know that reading you're getting is radiation. And why do you need to know that? Because radiation rarely, if ever, dissipates. So how do you know that reading you're getting is in real time, or if it's 1,000 years old, 500 years old, 100 years old, 10 years old? You don't. You really don't. But if you don't know your equipment and you don't really know how an EMF gauge works, you'll never know that you're reading radiation and nothing in the magnetic field necessarily. And so you will just take all of those readings at face value instead of really trying to look at it a little bit deeper. So that's just one example of why really knowing the equipment, how it works, what it does, what it reads is really important. It really is. And same with laser, laser grids, great valuable tools that a lot of investigators use. We use them, but the lights will twinkle and they will intensify because they're a beam of light. They won't darken out. And I hear a lot of investigators in our field say, this dark mass moved in front of my light grid. And it's like, it didn't. It's impossible. Radiated laser has another acronym, right? It's light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. And knowing that tells me that all of those laser beams are propelled by radiation, and radiation doesn't dissipate, as we know. So those light points will only intensify and not dim out. So you would be saving yourself from thinking all of these things are paranormal if you know exactly what a laser grid does. You could just say, oh, it's nothing. That has to be the battery because, and you'll just figure things out without thinking it's something paranormal.
And how it could be influenced by things that are in the space as well, too, right? Like it's another layer
Sure.
to understanding it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right, especially when it comes to EMF, and especially people who use tri-field meters and get into those, it really is important. And I know the science stuff can get really mind-numbing to a lot of people, and they'd rather just not even think of it. But it really does open your world up to knowing how these things can work in the physical world. And if you're ever going to deal with skeptics or anything, it's important to have that, So you could see, something. Say you have a metal piece of metal, and you say it levitated. People will tell you that's impossible. There's no way you saw that. You say, well, actually, if I were to raise this room up to 10,000 milligauss, I could levitate that piece of metal. Do you know how I know that? Because an MRI machine is 10,000 milligauss, and you have to take your jewelry off because it'll get sucked into the machine and fly all around the room. So we know that metal objects can be levitated and can be moved if you can create 10,000 milligauss. So understanding the science into how things can work will really make you feel much more confident in your findings.
We just have Angela joining us here. We'll share really quickly. Been watching Steve for many years. He is great at what he does.
Well, thank you, Angela. It's very nice. Very fortunate to have been surrounded by a lot of great investigators for many years that I've been able to learn a lot from.
So Bianca is saying my favorite medium and paranormal investigator in one place, unreal. Aw, thanks.
Hey.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. One of the things that I wanted to comment about with our life with ghosts too is how you really, especially Alcatraz, Waverly as well too, it's like immersing us in to your experience. I really encourage everyone to read it. I sent out a link. I've put the link up everywhere. I added the link to my newsletter that I sent out at the beginning of the month.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You really do pull us into that experience. Was that the intention?
Yeah, that is one. Like when I knew I was going to include experiences from my own, from the shows and from my own paranormal, and I really didn't want to just tell the story. When that part of it comes up, I wanted the person to really feel like they're there with me. And I mean, what does this building smell like? What does it look like in this hallway? What am I stepping on? What am I stepping over? What are the hardships we came across when we we're trying to set up for this case? What logistics did we have to hurdle over? Not that these are terrible things. It's just
no, but it's sensory.
Inside. That's exactly what it is, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to work with a horror writer on this book, and Mike Aloisi specifically, because I knew that a horror writer could do the best job of putting somebody in that room, with me. And sure enough, when we go, in the writing process, and we're going back and forth on the phone or live notes or whatever we're doing, he really dialed all of that in, and it's really cool. And I think it does really, if we're talking about Waverly Hills, you're going to know what it smells like, what it looks like, what's on the walls, as I'm walking through the hallways, what I'm looking at, what the texture is. It's really pretty awesome.
You do. You can feel it. And I have not been to Waverly Hills, but I've had conversations with other people that have been there, and they all say the same thing. It's top on their list as well too, in a place that they want to return to, as far as a sensory experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they're all quite honestly, not all. There's even a private residence in here that doesn't offer much for that sort of thing. Their house is beautiful and quite well kept. But in the places where, Sloss Furnace, Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, where you really wanted to feel like you're there, to have that chill with me in the moment, those places you really do feel like you're there. They'll be able to look around and be like, that's the hallway. That's that twisting pipe he's talking about.
Sloss Furnace is one that kind of puts my hackles up, and I've never been, but I mean, reading about it and hearing it personally, something like just the hackles go right up when people are talking about Sloss Furnace. If you are just tuning in to us now, thank you for joining us here on Spirit Switchboard. You are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. And we have on the show with us today Steve Gonsalves from Ghost Hunters, Ghost Nation, and now author. Did your book come out in September or summer?
August.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So where can people purchase your book?
They can get it just about anywhere that, of course, every person who would love you to visit your local bookshop, support,
Yes.
Especially in the month of November being, local bookshop month and all of that. But that would be great. But we're also you can find it in all the Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million, of course on Amazon, Audible if you like audiobooks. I did an Audible version or an audiobook version. I guess it's on all audiobook formats, but Audible's where I listen to mine, so I always just say Audible. But yeah, mostly Barnes and Noble, bookstores, Amazon. Yeah.
That's awesome. Bucket list. Do you have a bucket list of places that you'd like to visit? And I had wrote it down on twofold, because personal places that maybe are different from professional places, something that you'd want to go to investigate, but maybe there's a historical place that's just drawing you that you don't necessarily want to investigate, but would like to check out. Is there some places that come to mind?
Yeah, I always thought that investigating the Colosseum would be pretty awesome. A few of the castles in Ireland. I would love to do the catacombs.
Me too. That's top.
Yeah,
Top. Catacombs for sure.
And honestly, the Villisca Axe Murder House I'd like to do. The White House would be really fascinating. Just about every president, Obama included, is claimed to have some really incredible experiences there.
Yeah, I did a pre-record for the show next week with Jeff Belanger. So he's coming on next week, and he talks about the White House being haunted. Definitely.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
He's a fun dude.
Yeah. What about Amityville? I am surprised. Yeah. Would Amityville be on that? The Amityville house be on that?
Yeah,
Yes.
I would like to do the Amityville house, just to sort of dig into that. I think if I could spend the right amount of time there. We had tried a few times. It was kind of funny in the earlier days of Ghost Hunters. We had tried, and they told us they didn't want to perpetuate that stereotype anymore. But then they opened it up to be like a Halloween haunted house that you could like walk through. It's like, well, that's probably doing worse.
You would think that would make that level of energy maybe not so nice.
Yeah, I don't know. We've definitely tried a few times just to do it, but it's never panned out. They've always, whoever the current owners were always kind of said, this is no longer for us, and that's cool. No big deal. It would be awesome, just to be in there and be like, this is where, that's sort of, I think my era, Conjuring, is Amityville. But
Yeah. Somebody is, Susan's just asking about the Perrin house, which would be the original Conjuring house, right?
yeah, yep,
Is that a
yeah,
place?
we
Have you
investigated
been?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we investigated that in season 2 of Ghost Hunters. That'd be 2005, I think. Yeah, there,
Does
and
that
it
feel
was
weird to say out
pretty
loud?
good.
2005.
Yeah, you have to
You know,
think, like,
like,
when is it? What was it?
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty easy when it was like 5, 6 years, 7, but now that it's been almost 20, it definitely.
It's
Yeah, wow,
amazing, though. It's
it's pretty
amazing.
crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's
We're very
fabulous.
lucky.
Fabulous in every way. And it shows that whatever the approach is, that formula and the way that you're doing it right, because people are resonating with it and they're engaging and just wanting more in whatever way you have to opportunities to share with us. I just wanted to
Thank you.
share Kathy Layton. I stayed in the castle in Ireland late one night. I was walking the halls and peeked through a keyhole in an old door. My hackles went up and I hightailed it out of there. I'm so the
That's
opposite, though.
cool.
I'm let's go in. Oh, something growled. Let's go figure out what that was.
Of course. Oh yeah.
Let's figure it out. Thank you for sharing,
Yep.
Kathy.
Same. But if you're not an investigator, you may be like, for the average person, whoa, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I like to be on our side of
Yeah,
the
for sure.
equation there.
Joe is asking, any chance of the team coming up to Ontario again to investigate anywhere? How do you filter? How did the locations get filtered or decided upon?
It's always different. By and large, they come through the local TAPS teams. Like we have a family of teams across the country. We'll get them through route. Through the website. People submit cases through the website, and then there are cases that we personally want to do that we'll put in the mix. And then there's a bit of like I guess a triage system. Once they're all sort of in the database, is there an actual call to action? For instance, a place where people really do need help we'll go to before a place that's just like, come check out our ghosts. We love it.
That's good. Yeah.
That's awesome too. But we really do want to investigate a place that, not that we won't do the other ones because they're fun for us, but we want to make sure that we're getting to the others first. So that people that we need to really help.
Children and animals.
Families. Yeah, animals for sure. And then
animals.
of course, when it comes to the shows, legally it has to be a place that and logistically there are different things that they look at. But for us, we look also at high frequency of activity, because we do have to think in the TV world, we may only be there for a week or two, right? In some cases, like we've talked about, maybe a month, best case. So if we're going to a place that they say, once every 3 months this happens, the chances of it happening while we're there are pretty slim. So we'll try to pick a place where things are happening on a high frequency, if possible. If not, we'll go anywhere. But if we can get a place with a high frequency, we'll choose that over a place with a lower frequency.
We're just gonna scroll through here. So one of the questions that I had written down for you is that you've had it, this career has been almost 30 years. So you've had an opportunity to work with so many different people. Is there somebody that you would like to investigate with but haven't had the opportunity, where schedules don't jive? Or is there, someone that investigates differently, that you would like that opportunity so you can see from a different perspective and maybe learn something from them? Is there someone that you haven't had an opportunity to work with yet that you would feel comfortable sharing about?
Yeah, no, of course. That's a great question. And I'm super happy to say that just about everybody that I've really wanted to work with, I've been able to, whether it be, people historically in our field that,
Yeah.
I looked up to, very fortunate to have worked with, the Warrens and
Yeah.
Dr. William G. Roll, and, spent some time with some of the greats in the field. Very fortunate to have been done that. I looked up to Jason and to great, and obviously I've been able to work with him quite a bit, luckily.
Yeah.
And people that I would investigate or want to investigate with now, I do. I get to investigate with Amy and Adam quite often.
It's awesome.
I get to investigate with my buddies on Project Fear. Used to be Destination Fear. I get to, and if I'm not, investigating with them, we're hanging out. We're getting together. We're talking about things. We're exchanging ideas. And even if I'm not investigating with Chip Coffee, we'll do an event together, and I get to peek my head in and listen in on what he's doing and absorb some of
quite a
the things that he
storyteller.
does. He is. Oh yeah. And I looked up to John Zaffis, and I get to work with him, occasionally. And of course there are some others. I would love to be able to work with Lloyd Auerbach. He's somebody that I've always looked up to, and I have been able to talk with him, but we've never investigated together or worked together closely. But I'm super fortunate that most of the people that I want to work with, I get to. Ghost Brothers, love those guys, and we've been able to investigate together a bunch of times. So it's really.
But how
really
blessed you must feel that your passions can be your profession, and not many people get to say that, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing, and I don't mean that in any sense other than it literally is a life blessing. It really, really is, and I pinch myself all the time.
I bet. Have you thought about, that there are people coming into the paranormal community that are looking at you as that person that is on their bucket list of they hope they get to investigate with someday?
Yeah, that's always crazy to hear. It really is.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of sad in a way that the TV world has kind of left some of us not very accessible in that regard, which is why I love sometimes we'll do events, where we'll just get to be somewhere with 200 investigators and investigate a place and learn from each other and exchange ideas and theories. And those are always, I think, my favorite interactions, because that's when you'll get to hear like, wow, I've always wanted to be able to spend some time and pick your brain and investigate together. And that's what we did this last hour. And they really, and those types of things are really cool, but it's weird to think about.
And this doing, making yourself available to do these interviews and connecting with people, this matters too. So those people that are needing to hear those little snippets that you share through this is appreciated as well too.
Oh, please. Yeah, gosh.
Just going to share this really quick. Sandy Edwards is sharing their stories of a haunted restaurant. It was an old coach hotel in Orangeville, Ontario. The restaurant was called Greystones when I lived there. Sandy, I actually did events at Greystones. I did a few Dining with the Dead events, and then we did a Halloween event where I toured people around, and we Greystones was definitely an interesting place and active. You didn't have to do much to have anything happen, actually. Just say, hi, we're here, and they would interact. Greystones definitely has a neat history to it.
And it's just a restaurant?
I
You sound
don't
like
know
part
if
of
it's
the.
even open anymore. It was an old limestone building, and it had a really rich history to it. Limestone buildings in themselves,
Mm,
an older building is just exciting. Then add the history to it.
hmm
Bianca is sharing, Steve, I've had the pleasure of reading your book, loved your stories and learning more about the paranormal world. I hope you'll write a second book. My husband and I are planning on joining a group of paranormal investigators in the near future, this being our first time. Do you have advice for us?
Oh, first time ever. Yeah, I would say, of course, uh, make sure you keep a great deal of common sense about you. Try not to sort of get overexcited in terms of being scared or really being too excited. Try to disprove things when you can and learn a lot of the little things that could really be causing you to maybe misinterpret some things, and I think those types of things you wouldn't quite think of are very valuable. Like, for instance, rubbing your eyes in the dark. You'll create what's known as phosphenes, and there'll be flashes of light in your eyes, and they'll last up to 40, 45 minutes without you even realizing it. So, as an investigator, if you're not thinking about that and you rub your eyes, and then half hour later, do you ever remember you rubbed your eyes? I don't, I wouldn't. So you may be like, "What is this?" But keeping those little tips and tidbits in your head, you could be like, "Oh, wait a minute. Let me wait until I'm done investigating." Or now I know for the next half hour I can't really pay much attention to anything visual here in the dark. I think those things are pretty valuable because in the beginning, I think a lot of people struggle. I certainly did with misinterpreting experiences. So anytime you can do things to help yourself with that, and also read books.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you have essential reading list.
I do. I have a lot. I would say first and foremost would be um, this one. ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, a parapsychologist handbook by Lloyd Auerbach.
Yeah.
I've had this since I think I was 12, maybe. Um, and I still read it to this day. So I would say this one for sure. And a lot of the books out there are great. Jay has put out some books that are fantastic. Amy has a book out there that's great. Adam just put out a book that's fantastic. And they all have a different sort of perspective to things. This one's very much, driven by parapsychology and the scientific method, with a strong belief in ESP as well. Of course, Lloyd is a believer in that sort of thing, and his teachings in here reflect that. But also, uh, his method and what he lays out in this book uh, could set the foundation for any team. And to this day, even though this book was written, gosh, I think it was in the early 80s, but can still work as a great foundation for a new team.
I feel too being okay to, it's going to, maybe I'm going to phrase this incorrectly or inappropriately, like try people out. You may not jive with certain people, and finding a groove that feels right and like you say, balance each other out. So when you're first starting, being okay to have those boundaries about what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right for you in approaches. And that first group may not be right, but the second may.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And quite honestly, when I first started working with, back then, the team wasn't called TAPS, it was called Rhode Island Paranormal. Started talking with Jay, and uh, one thing that I always admired about, the way that he ran that team was, you don't have to investigate the way I do. That would be his flaw. I don't care. It's not. Maybe I'll learn something from you. Maybe
Mhm.
you'll there are certain boundaries. He's not going to let you like do, none of us are going to let you can't just run amok and do crazy stuff, but uh, he wanted everybody to really just investigate the way that they wanted to. And the TAPS team has always been, for lack of a better term, a melting pot. Just different types of investigators, different types of techniques and protocols and procedures, and we even have people who specialize in demonology, and a lot of different facets to the team. And you really have to all be able. But aside from getting along, I guess, in what you would consider, paranormal politics that way, all getting along no matter your beliefs and how you investigate that sort of thing. Like you mentioned, jiving personally,
Mhm.
you all need to get along because the ghosts may not be there, but
Yeah.
you and your teammates, you can go to a location, spend a week, a lot of long hours. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Long hours can be a lot of fun, but that's if you like the people you're with. Can you imagine
Yeah.
all day and night in one room? Like, God, I can't wait to get out of here with this guy or girl. Like, it would be
Yeah.
terrible. You got to really like the people you're investigating with.
Yeah. And yeah, ethically, like, know your own moral compass and ethical compass, and feeling comfortable with the people that you're with for that reason.
Absolutely. So many good books, though. Poltergeist by Dr. William G. Roll as well is a really good one for the beginners, if we're still on that question. I don't remember. But yeah.
Laura Lee is just commenting, where I live in Thunder Bay, Northwestern Ontario, Canada, has insane activity, hauntings, cryptids, UAPs. And she is just sharing, I believe we're so active here due to the large First Nations history with the Hudson Bay Company, as well as being located on a large magnetic shield in Lake Superior.
Oh, okay. It definitely could be. What's interesting about being on a lake is that, or any large body of water, there was a theory, and I think a lot of investigators may still believe that large body of water can act as a bit of I guess, a catalyst, or a bit of some fuel for
It's a
paranormal
conductor.
activity. Well, conductor for sure, but it can't produce any energy in and of itself. The laws of science, the
Yeah.
Earth cannot produce its own charge. It's so, but if lightning hits that body of water, now you have quite a charge for a brief moment of time. It dissipates very quickly. But if you have those circumstances, say on Lake Superior, you have one of those superstorms, and there's a lightning bolt hitting the water every 10 minutes. You look at that sort of weather pattern, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see a spike in activity during a storm like that.
Well,
But being next to, what's that? I'm sorry.
or just how many ships have sunk in Lake Superior.
Oh, gosh.
The history attached to Lake Superior is wild.
Whoa.
So the amount of ships that have sunk is huge. And it I forget, Laura Lee, you might be able to remind me. It's like an ocean. It's so deep in the amount of water that's actually in Lake Superior itself. It's not just like a lake. It's
You're not thinking like a lake. This is a
yes, massive.
yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad, like, I grew up in Northern Ontario as well too. And I grew up hearing that Lake Superior doesn't give up her dead. That's the phrase that I grew up hearing, was Lake Superior doesn't give up her dead. So there's yes. Yeah.
That's
history to it.
an ominous phrase.
It is ominous,
Oh,
right?
God,
It's
yeah.
powerful when you watching videos of the waves coming in on Lake Superior. It's just powerful. And this time of year is actually surfer season, because the waves are so high. So they have these wetsuits because it's so cold, and there's ice dripping off them. It's actually amazing. You should search it later.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds beautiful. Almost sounds like Frozen, a little bit of a Disney Winter Wonderland there.
Yeah. Well, it sometimes it doesn't freeze because it's just moving so much. And the personal haunting. Yeah. Have you guys ever run into elementals or cryptids, or has that ever come up in investigations?
You know, there
UAPs?
is sure not too much with. There have been a few cases when we, um, not us personally, but the clients thought maybe there was some UFO activity, and we've
Right.
investigated that and called in some experts in that field, like Ben Hansen and some other folks from MUFON and other investigators we've tapped into. Um, it's so fascinating. We've got into cryptids for sure. We'll investigate anything, um, because even if you personally don't believe in it, that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's if the person who had the experience truly believes and they're not lying to you. That's all that, because you just want to figure out the truth, whether we'll either, find the cryptid or find what the person actually experienced. As long as getting to the truth of it is what's important. So whether, and that even goes with the ghost world, if even if I personally don't believe that this person had this crazy experience, if a client they have tells me that they saw this head with green flames coming out of the eyes, it's something I'm likely not going to believe, like they really saw it in the environment physically. But that doesn't matter. Do they really believe it, that they experienced that? And if they do, then that's all that's important. You need to help them figure out what it is that they really think that they saw. Cryptid, that world is so fascinating. Um,
Mhm.
we've done a lot of investigating around here in the Bridgewater Triangle, which is known to have a lot of cryptid and UFO activity. And a little quick side note, we got Pentagon clearance once, which was kind of awesome to have
That's
those
a big
meetings in the Pentagon. Yeah, and I think we're still the only paranormal team to ever have Pentagon clearance. Um, and we had to go to these meetings, like me, do that. But we ended up investigating. It's why we did that, but investigating Wright-Patterson Air Force Base,
Mm.
and it was awesome. But this part is true for all you UFO or UAP, whatever they want to say now, nuts out there. You'll know what Hangar 18 is, which is from the Roswell crash and these other. And even if you don't believe in the Roswell crash, it still is in the lore. Hangar 18 is where they would store any identified sort of craft or you know, technologies that we don't know of. And this is the honest truth. And I didn't tell this story for a long time, but just because you never know. But now everybody's talking about this stuff, so you
Yeah.
don't know. The first thing they did is they lined us up on the tarmac, all these military dudes, like and gals. They're very menacing. They were very big, all of them with a lot of guns and a lot of gear,
Intimidating.
and yes, intimidating. But they were intimidating us because they really wanted us to know that they would kill us, and that's the honest truth. They said, "Hey, we need you guys to understand. You see this yellow line out there in the tarmac?" And I said, "Yeah, honest truth." They said, "If any of you goes within a foot of that line, or certainly touches it, it's two in the chest and one in the head." And we're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And they're like, "No, no, you need to understand. It's two in the chest and one of the head. No questions. Like it just happens. You can't go anywhere, no matter what." Sure, yeah, of course. And again, he says, "No, I need everybody to understand how serious this is. I went to lunch with the snipers out there, and they'll kill me if I go next to that line. And it's Hangar 18 out there on the other side of this line."
Wow.
And so we're all like, what are they trying to keep from there? And this is another truth to that story is we had military MP dudes tell us, like, you need to come back here, like meet us here, talk to us, come. We have things here that we don't like. We need to tell somebody. This is crazy. And we're all like this. Why are you telling us? Like it's weird how if people know your work, the boundaries that get dropped, and it
Yes.
was pretty awesome. And then they showed us a laser. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this either. They told us it was a back engineered weapon system. Back then, I didn't even know what back engineered meant.
Yeah.
And it was
I
a
don't
laser.
today, but I'll be Googling later.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, it zapped this cinder block in the distance and blew a hole in it. And we were like, whoa, it's this crazy laser. But they told us, it wasn't for like villainous reasons. They said if this ever makes it onto our fighter jets, it'll be a way to pinpoint enemies with 0 civilian fatality. That's what they were excited about. They're like, the application for this means 0 civilian fatalities.
Right.
If there's somebody in in another government we want to zap, we just get those people. And I was like, okay. But I really think they were working on some sort of villainous, who knows, with the government. But
I had an opportunity to go to a military base. It was sort of like a pre-walk through investigation, sort of a pre-walk through. So I had it, but it was on like a museum part. And so I was going through the museum and I'm doing my thing the way that I do it. And then they shut down the investigation. They wouldn't let us go back on. And they cited it was potentially a privacy breach.
oh,
What they said, and everybody on the team was sort of frustrated and a little irritated with me. But I mean, no one. I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing in the space, and then we weren't allowed to go back. But
well,
it made me want to dig in more.
That's right.
It's the puzzle.
There's always a reason.
Don't put a puzzle in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Don't tell a paranormal investigator no.
Exactly.
Because we're going to be like, what do you
Don't
mean,
look behind
no?
the curtain.
Why?
Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, that was. So if you believe in UFOs, I'm telling you that all, they really told us that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that was Hangar 18. That was back there.
Thanks, Angela. I think I'd love to see you and the ghost hunters get together and do an investigation. Sometimes it's a scheduling thing. Sometimes
that's true. Yes.
This is fascinating. Laura Lee is just sharing this is fascinating. I understand what Steve's talking about regarding back engineered. So I will be looking that up later. So I am more educated.
She knows. Oh, yes. Very fascinating.
Sometimes I think I'm better off not knowing certain things, though, because once you know, you can't unknow.
That's true. Yeah, there's a lot of things you're probably better off not knowing. But gosh, if aliens are real, our government likely.
My brother would say they are. My brother certainly saw something that was outside of the box when we were growing up, for sure. And where we grew up, there was a lot of that oral history attached to it as well, too. Like of lights in the sky and cryptids. Northern Ontario is like a whole other world, for sure. I appreciate you spending your evening, day after Thanksgiving. I appreciate you coming and sharing your stories.
Of course. Thank you. Please. My pleasure. Very nice of you to want to have me on and talk about all things paranormal and fun. And of course,
A Life with Ghosts.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is a great read for many reasons because it's layered. Just like how you enjoy your investigations, it's layered. It's not just about the ghost stories. It's about the connections and personal growth, even personal growth and what you learned.
Yeah,
like you share that in there as well too, which I think is brilliant. So thank you everybody that joined us in the chat today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being a part of the show and all the great questions that you asked and comments that you made. And I would love to hear from you guys. So if you have any questions, comments, show ideas, you can email me. It's carolyn.shellhorn@gmail.com. And next week on the show, we as I mentioned earlier, we have Jeff Belanger on. And Yeah, it's a pre-record, but I'm going to hang out with you guys in the chat and we can chat at the same time and watch it together. And I have to tell you, there's some cringy. I'm just letting you know there's some cringy moments because I messed up saying his name because I wanted to do it Canadian and Belanger. I messed it up right at the beginning, and a couple of words throughout I misspelled or mispronounced. So I'm going to hang out and just own it. ride the wave with you guys through that. So I hope that you guys can join us next week as well too, and I'll hang out with you in the chat. Everyone's just saying thank you, amazing show. Thanks for being here. All the best and keep up doing what you're doing. So great comments, everybody. Thank you so much. And you have been listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 and 107.7. Have a great week, everybody. See you next week.